Embattled UN agency warns its aid operation in Gaza is collapsing over a wave of funding cuts. Top UN court orders Israel to prevent genocide in Gaza, but stops short of ordering ceasefire, how genocide officially became a crime, and why South Africa is accusing Israel of committing it. Today is Sunday, January 28th, 2024. And this is the Dunkley Report. The head of the main UN aid agency in the war-battered Gaza Strip has warned that its work is collapsing after 9 donor countries decided to suspend funding. The United States and other countries made the decision after allegations surfaced that several agency employees had participated in the deadly Hamas attack against Israel 4 months ago. That attack triggered the Israel-Hamas war. The UN agency has said the employees were fired and are under investigation. The agency is the main aid provider in besieged Gaza, providing food and shelter to hundreds of thousands of people. The head of the agency wrote Saturday that he is shocked by the announced funding cuts. The United Nations top court has ordered Israel to do all it can to prevent death, destruction, and any acts of genocide in Gaza. But the panel stopped short Friday of ordering Israel to end the military offensive that has laid waste to the Palestinian enclave, in a ruling that will keep Israel under the legal lens for years to come. The court offered little other comfort to Israel in a genocide case brought by South Africa that goes to the core of one of the world's most intractable conflicts. The court's half-dozen orders will be difficult to achieve without some sort of ceasefire or pause in the fighting. In the aftermath of World War II and the murder by Nazi Germany of 6 million Jews in the Holocaust, the world united around the pledge, never again. A key part of that lofty aspiration was the drafting of a convention that codified and committed nations to prevent and punish a new crime, sometimes called the crime of crimes, genocide. The convention was drawn up in 1948, the year of Israel's creation as a Jewish state. Now that country is being accused by South Africa at the United Nations highest court of committing the very crime that is so deeply woven into its national identity. Israel vehemently rejects the claim and accuses Pretoria of providing political cover for Hamas. Holocaust survivor Gad Partok never thought he'd live to see horrors like the ones he witnessed as a young boy in Tunisia when Nazis invaded his town and killed many of his neighbors. But the 93-year-old Israeli says that childhood trauma was viscerally revived on October 7th when Hamas militants rampaged through southern Israel, killing 200 and taking 250 hostage. Like many Israelis, Partok will spend International Holocaust Remembrance Day on Saturday commemorating a long-ago trauma and one that is still fresh in their minds. Officials in Ukraine say Russia has provided no credible evidence to back its claims that their own forces shot down a military transport plane carrying Ukrainian prisoners of war who were to be swapped for Russian POWs. Ukraine's coordination staff for the treatment of prisoners of war said late Friday that Russian officials had, with great delay, provided it with a list of the 65 Ukrainians who Moscow said had died in the Wednesday plane crash in Russia's Belgorod region. The agency says relatives of the named POWs were unable to identify their loved ones in sight photos provided by Russia. Authorities in Belgorod said the crash also killed 6 crew members and 3 Russian servicemen. The Russian city of St. Petersburg has marked the 80th anniversary of the end of a nearly 900-day siege by Nazi forces. It was one of the most brutal episodes of World War II and was commemorated on Saturday in a series of memorial events attended by the Kremlin leader and close allies. The Red Army broke the blockade of the city in January 1943 after more than 1 million residents died from hunger or under bombardment. The city was called Leningrad at the time. One blockade survivor told the Associated Press that she's still haunted by memories of the tiny food rations her family received. The Soviet Union lost an estimated 27 million people during World War II. Iraq's prime minister says his government and the United States have held a first session of formal talks in Baghdad aimed at winding down the mission of a U.S.-led military coalition formed to fight the Islamic State group in Iraq. The beginning of talks on Saturday comes as U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria have been regularly targeted by drone attacks launched by Iran-backed militias against the backdrop of the ongoing Israel-Hamas war. The U.S. says plans to set up a committee to negotiate the terms of the mission's end were first discussed last year, and that the timing isn't related to the attacks. The U.S. government has condemned the decision of Venezuela's highest court to block the presidential candidacy of opposition leader Maria Corina Machado. But the Biden administration on Saturday remained non-committal on reimposing economic sanctions against Venezuela, as it has threatened to do if the government of President Nicolas Maduro fails to level the playing field before a planned election. U.S. State Department spokesman Matthew Miller said that Washington is currently reviewing its Venezuela sanctions policy. Machado is a longtime government foe and former lawmaker. She won the presidential primary organized by the faction of the opposition, backed by the U.S. Climate activist Greta Thunberg has joined a march in southern England to protest the use of private jets and the expansion of an airport. Hundreds of local residents and activists holding banners and placards that read "Ban Private Jets" marched to Farnborough Airport in Hampshire County on Saturday. The airport, located about 40 miles or 64 kilometers southwest of London, mostly serves private aircraft. It applied last year to increase its maximum number of flights from 50,000 to 70,000 a year. Climate change groups say private jets are much more polluting than commercial airliners. Thunberg said that it's clear that private jets are incompatible with ensuring present and future living conditions on this planet. Mexico is acknowledging that at least 2 well-known Mayan ruin sites are unreachable by visitors because of cartel violence or land disputes. But 2 tourist guides in the southern state of Chiapas say the routes to 2 other sites are plagued by drug gang checkpoints, and many groups are avoiding trips there too. The government seems unconcerned, and there is even anger that anyone would suggest there is a problem. President Andrés Manuel López Obrador's policy is to play down gang violence even as the cartels take over more territory in Mexico. Both guides say the imposing temple complex at Palenque is still open and perfectly safe for visitors. But there are fears tourism could be damaged in Chiapas. Today's news was reported by the Associated Press. This has been the international news for Sunday, January 28, 2024. Thanks again for joining us here at the Dunkley Report.